Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive into today's incredible story, make sure to comment where you're watching from. We've got an amazing tale about honor, respect, and an unexpected encounter that changed everything. In the bustling corridors of Los Angeles International Airport, amid the chaos of holiday travel, a scene was about to unfold that would capture the attention of millions. The early morning sun filtered through the terminal's massive windows, casting long shadows across the polished floors as travelers rushed to their destinations. Among them was Staff Sergeant David Bellavia, a decorated veteran whose quiet demeanor masked an extraordinary history of valor. The TSA security checkpoint loomed ahead, a familiar bottleneck where patience wore thin and tempers often flared. Bellavia stood in line, his worn leather carry-on containing something far more precious than the usual travel essentials. A Medal of Honor, the nation's highest military decoration awarded for acts of valor above and beyond the call of duty. Morning had started like any other, with Bellavia heading to a speaking engagement where he would share his story with young recruits. His Medal of Honor wasn't just a piece of metal. It represented the sacrifices of his fellow soldiers, the brothers in arms who hadn't made it home, and the very essence of American military courage. As the line inched forward, the TSA agent, James Cooper, sat at his station with the mechanical efficiency of someone who'd seen thousands of bags pass through his scanner. His face showed no emotion as he gestured for the next passenger to step forward. Cooper had been working at LAX for 15 years, and the mundane routine of checking IDs and scanning bags had long since become second nature. "Next," Cooper called out, his voice carrying the weight of countless hours of repetitive duty. Bellavia stepped forward, placing his carry-on on the conveyor belt. The bag disappeared into the X-ray machine, and Cooper's eyes narrowed as he studied the screen. Something had caught his attention, an unusual shape, dense and metallic. "Sir, I need you to open your bag," Cooper demanded, his tone carrying an edge of suspicion. Bellavia complied without protest, knowing the drill. He carefully unzipped the bag, revealing the Medal of Honor nestled in its protective case. The morning light caught the metal surface, making the eagle and stars shimmer with an almost ethereal quality. Cooper's reaction was unexpected and jarring. "You can't take this through," he declared flatly, picking up the case with little regard. For its significance, it could be used as a weapon. The surrounding passengers fell silent, their attention drawn to the unfolding scene. Bellavia's face remained composed, though his eyes reflected a deep hurt that went beyond the moment. "Sir, this is a Medal of Honor," Bellavia explained calmly, his voice steady despite the rising tension. "It was awarded by the President of the United States." But Cooper remained unmoved, his authority his shield against reason. "Rules are rules," he stated, placing the medal aside as if it were nothing more than a confiscated bottle of water. The atmosphere at the checkpoint grew, thick with disbelief. Other travelers watched in stunned silence as one of the nation's highest military honors was treated with such dismissive disregard. Among them was a familiar figure, Sylvester Stallone, who had been quietly observing the scene unfold. Stallone, known for his iconic roles portraying warriors and underdogs, felt a surge of indignation. He had spent decades portraying characters who embodied the American spirit of courage and resilience. But here before him was the real thing, a true hero being disrespected in the most public of ways. Making his way through the crowd, Stallone approached the checkpoint. His presence caused a ripple of recognition among the onlookers, but his focus was entirely on the situation at hand. He stepped forward, his voice carrying the weight of both his celebrity and his conviction. "That's not just a medal," Stallone spoke, his words cutting through the tension. "That's America's highest honor." The actor's intervention drew all eyes to him, but more importantly, to the significance of what was transpiring. Cooper's expression flickered with uncertainty as he realized the gravity of his mistake. Stallone then turned to Bellavia, his next words spoken with genuine respect. "They are all heroes." These four simple words, spoken by someone whose career had been built on portraying heroism, carried a profound impact. They weren't just about Bellavia. They encompassed all who had earned the Medal of Honor, all who had served, and all who had sacrificed. The effect was immediate and transformative. Cooper's rigid posture softened as the reality of his actions sank in. Other TSA agents, recognizing the situation's significance, quickly intervened. The Medal of Honor was carefully returned to its rightful owner, this time with the reverence it deserved. As word of the incident spread through the terminal, something remarkable happened. Veterans in the crowd stepped forward, forming an impromptu honor guard around Bellavia. They shared knowing looks and respectful nods, their presence a silent testimony to the brotherhood of service that transcended rank and time. Stallone's intervention had done more than just resolve a tense situation. It had created a moment of understanding. His four words had bridged the gap between civilian life and military service, between rules and respect, between procedure and honor. The actor, who had spent his career portraying heroes, had recognized and defended a real one. The impact of those four words continued to resonate long after the incident. They became a reminder of how a simple acknowledgement of sacrifice and service could transform a moment of disrespect into an opportunity for education and understanding. Social media soon buzzed with accounts of the encounter, with many sharing their own stories of military service and the importance of recognizing those who had given so much for their country. In the days that followed, the story spread far beyond the confines of LAX. It became a talking point about respect, about understanding, and about the importance of recognizing true heroism. Training programs at TSA facilities across the country began incorporating specific guidelines about handling military honors and decorations, ensuring that such an incident would never happen again. Bellavia's quiet dignity throughout the ordeal spoke volumes about the character of those who earn our nation's highest military honor. He had faced the situation with the same grace and composure that had marked his military service, turning what could have been a confrontational moment into an opportunity for growth and understanding. The incident served as a powerful reminder that heroism doesn't always wear a cape or appear on movie screens. Sometimes it walks quietly among us, carrying medals earned through extraordinary acts of courage, asking nothing more than the basic respect such sacrifices deserve. Have you ever witnessed a moment where someone stood up for what was right? Share your story in the comments below. And remember, true heroes walk among us every day. They might not wear their medals, but their sacrifice and courage deserve our eternal respect and gratitude. Stay tuned for the next chapter, where we'll delve deeper into the aftermath of this remarkable encounter and its lasting impact on everyone involved. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to never miss another inspiring story of courage, respect, and the power of standing up for what's right. The story of the Medal of Honor incident at LAX didn't end at the security checkpoint. As Bellavia and Stallone made their way through the terminal, word of what had transpired spread like wildfire through social media. Within hours, the encounter had caught the attention of military communities across the nation, sparking a conversation about respect, recognition, and the often invisible divide between civilian life and military service. Back in his office, TSA Supervisor Richard Keller was dealing with an unprecedented situation. His phone hadn't stopped ringing since the morning's events, with calls coming in from media outlets, military organizations, and even congressional offices. The security footage of the incident had been requested multiple times, showing the moment when Cooper had dismissed the significance of one of the nation's most sacred military honors. For Cooper, the reality of his actions was beginning to sink in. The veteran TSA agent sat in Keller's office, his usual confidence replaced by a profound sense of regret. He had spent 15 years following protocols and procedures, but today's events had forced him to confront the difference between following rules and understanding their spirit. Meanwhile, Stallone had accompanied Bellavia to the airport's USO lounge, where a small crowd of veterans and active duty service members had gathered. The news of what happened had traveled quickly through the military grapevine, and these men and women felt compelled to show their support. Among them was retired Master Sergeant Robert Hayes, who had served with Bellavia during the intense house-to-house fighting in Fallujah. Hayes watched as Stallone engaged with the gathered veterans, noting how the actor listened intently to their stories with genuine interest. Despite his celebrity status, Stallone showed a remarkable understanding of military sacrifice, perhaps drawn from his years of research for roles portraying warriors and veterans. His presence had transformed what could have been a dark moment into an opportunity for healing and understanding. The atmosphere in the USO lounge was electric, with shared experiences and mutual respect. Veterans from different eras, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Iraq, and Afghanistan, found common ground in their stories. A young Marine lieutenant, fresh from training, sat captivated as Bellavia shared the story of the actions that had earned him the Medal of Honor. Outside the lounge, the incident had sparked a larger discussion about the treatment of military honors and decorations. Senior TSA officials in Washington were already drafting new guidelines, recognizing that their current protocols failed to account for the sacred nature of military awards. The story had reached the Pentagon, where military leadership saw an opportunity to educate the public about the significance of the Medal of Honor. As the morning turned to afternoon, Bellavia's phone buzzed constantly with messages of support. Fellow Medal of Honor recipients reached out, sharing their own experiences of navigating civilian life while carrying the weight of the nation's highest military decoration. Each story reinforced the unique brotherhood that existed among these extraordinary individuals. Stallone, who had initially planned to catch a flight to New York, decided to stay longer. He recognized that his presence had become part of something larger than himself. The actor had spent decades portraying characters who embodied American ideals of courage and sacrifice, but today he had witnessed the real thing. His 4 words, "They are all heroes," had become a rallying cry, spreading across social media platforms and news outlets. In the terminal, Cooper had returned to his post, but something had changed. His interactions with passengers were different now, marked by a new awareness of the stories that might lie behind each face that passed through his checkpoint. The morning's events had stripped away the automaticity of his job, replacing it with a deeper understanding of the human element in security procedures. By late afternoon, the story had reached national news networks. Reporters gathered outside, LAX, eager to capture interviews with anyone connected to the incident. But what they found was something more profound than a simple conflict between a TSA agent and a Medal of Honor recipient. They discovered a story about recognition, respect, and the power of standing up for what's right. Military organizations across the country began sharing educational materials about the Medal of Honor and its significance. The medal's history, dating back to the Civil War, became a topic of public interest. People learned about the extraordinary acts of courage that earned this decoration and the heavy responsibility carried by its recipients. As evening approached, Bellavia finally boarded his delayed flight to his speaking engagement. The airline had upgraded him to first class, a small gesture of respect that reflected the day's events. Fellow passengers, many of whom had witnessed the morning's incident or heard about it through social media, offered quiet nods of appreciation as he made his way to his seat. In the following days, the impact of the incident continued to ripple through various communities. TSA training centers across the country began incorporating new modules about military decorations and their significance. Veterans organizations used the story as a platform to discuss the challenges faced by service members transitioning to civilian life. Cooper, motivated by his experience, took the initiative to learn more about military service and decoration. He reached out to local veterans groups, seeking to understand the stories behind the medals and ribbons he encountered daily. His journey from ignorance to understanding became an example for others in similar positions. The story's reach extended beyond American shores. Military personnel stationed around the world shared the account with their international counterparts, leading to discussions about how different nations honor their warriors. The universal themes of respect, recognition, and redemption resonated across cultural boundaries. Stallone's role in the incident added another layer to his legacy. The actor, known for portraying fictional heroes, had demonstrated that real heroism often requires nothing more than standing up for what's right. His intervention had shown that celebrity could be used to bridge the gap between military and civilian understanding. But perhaps the most significant impact was felt in the quiet moments that followed. In airport security lines across the country, TSA agents began paying closer attention to military decorations and the veterans who carried them. The incident had humanized the screening process, reminding everyone involved that behind every uniform, every medal, and every decoration was a story of service and sacrifice. Balavia's speaking engagement that evening took on new meaning. As he addressed the young recruits, he shared not only his combat experiences, but also the importance of carrying the Medal of Honor's legacy with dignity and grace. His handling of the morning's incident became another chapter in his ongoing service. To the nation, the story continues to serve as a reminder that heroism comes in many forms. Sometimes it's displayed on the battlefield, where split-second decisions save lives and change history. Other times, it's shown in everyday moments, when people choose to stand up for what's right, to acknowledge sacrifice, and to bridge the gaps of understanding that divide us. Have you ever witnessed a moment that changed your perspective on service and sacrifice? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and remember, every interaction is an opportunity to show respect and understanding for those who have served our nation. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to catch the next chapter of this remarkable story. Together, we're learning that sometimes the most powerful moments come from standing up for what we believe in, just as Stallone did with those 4 simple but profound words. In the weeks following the LAX incident, what had begun as a confrontation at a security checkpoint had evolved into a national conversation about honor, respect, and the bridge between military and civilian life. The story's impact continued to unfold in unexpected ways, touching lives far beyond the original participants. At the Pentagon, General Michael Andrews sat in his office, reviewing the final draft of a new initiative sparked by the incident. The program, titled Understanding Valor, would be implemented across all civilian federal agencies that regularly interacted with military personnel. The general couldn't help but reflect on how a potential public relations disaster had transformed into an opportunity for meaningful change. Meanwhile, Sylvester Stallone had returned to Hollywood, but the impact of his 4 words, "They are all heroes," continued to resonate. The actor found himself increasingly involved in veterans' causes, not as a celebrity figurehead, but as someone who had witnessed firsthand the importance of recognizing military service. Production companies began reaching out, interested in developing projects that would tell the real stories of Medal of Honor recipients. James Cooper's journey of understanding had taken an unexpected turn. The TSA agent, whose dismissive treatment of Belavia's Medal of Honor had triggered the incident, had become an advocate for change within the agency. Working with his supervisor, Richard Keller, Cooper had helped develop a comprehensive training module about military decorations and their significance. On a crisp morning at the TSA training center in Georgia, Cooper stood before a group of new recruits, sharing his experience. His story had become a powerful teaching tool, demonstrating how adherence to rules without understanding their context could lead to unintended disrespect. The recruits listened intently as Cooper described the moment he realized the weight of his actions. "Every passenger has a story," Cooper explained to the attentive audience, "but some carry visible symbols of their service and sacrifice. Our job isn't just to follow procedures, it's to understand the significance of what passes through our checkpoints." His words carried the weight of hard-earned wisdom. Back in Washington, D.C., Staff Sergeant Belavia's experience had catalyzed a series of congressional hearings on the treatment of military decorations in civilian settings. The testimony of Medal of Honor recipients, including Belavia himself, painted a vivid picture of the challenges faced by those who carried these symbols of valor in their daily lives. During one particularly moving session, retired Master Sergeant Hayes shared his perspective on the incident. "What happened at LAX wasn't just about one medal or one veteran," he testified. "It was about how we as a nation recognize and respect the sacrifices made by our service members." His words echoed through the chamber, drawing nods of agreement. From both sides of the aisle, the ripple effects continued to spread through various sectors of society. Airlines began implementing special training for their staff about military decorations and protocol. Airport USO lounges across the country expanded their services, creating dedicated spaces where veterans could share their stories and find community during their travels. In Los Angeles, the USO lounge where Stallone and Belavia had gathered, after the incident had become a symbolic meeting place. Veterans passing through LAX would often stop there, sharing their own experiences and adding to the growing narrative about the importance of recognition and respect. The story had also reached into unexpected corners of popular culture. Documentary filmmakers approached Belavia, interested in exploring not just his Medal of Honor story, but the broader implications of the LAX incident. They saw an opportunity to examine how society treats its heroes and the importance of maintaining connections between military and civilian communities. Social media platforms had become forums for veterans to share their own experiences with civilian interactions. The hashtag, #TheyAreAllHeroes, had taken on a life of its own, with thousands of stories being shared about moments of recognition, respect, and sometimes misunderstanding. Each story added another layer to the ongoing dialogue about military service and civilian life. Cooper's personal transformation had become particularly noteworthy. The TSA agent had begun spending his free time volunteering with veterans organizations, learning about military culture and the stories behind the decorations he encountered daily. His journey from ignorance to understanding had become a powerful example of how education and personal connection could bridge cultural divides. At military bases across the country, the incident had sparked discussions about how to better prepare service members for civilian interactions. Young soldiers learned not just about the proper handling of their decorations, but also how to navigate situations where civilians might not understand their significance. The Medal of Honor Society had taken particular interest in the story's development. They saw an opportunity to educate the public about the nation's highest military decoration and the responsibility carried by its recipients. Through various outreach programs, they began sharing the stories of Medal of Honor recipients, helping civilians understand the extraordinary acts of courage these medals represented. Stallone's continued involvement had added another dimension to the narrative. The actor had begun working with veteran organizations to develop programs that would help bridge the military-civilian divide. His experience at LAX had shown him that sometimes the most powerful moments came not from grand gestures, but from simple acts of recognition and respect. In police departments and first responder units across the country, the story had prompted reviews of how they interacted with military veterans. Training programs were updated to include information about military decorations and protocol, ensuring that those who served their communities understood how to properly recognize those who had served their country. The incident had even influenced educational curriculum development. Schools began incorporating lessons about military service and recognition into their social studies programs. Students learned about the Medal of Honor and its significance, helping to ensure that future generations would understand and respect the symbols of military service. As the story continued to evolve, its impact became increasingly clear. What had started as a moment of disrespect had transformed into a catalyst for change, understanding, and connection. The 4 words spoken by Stallone had become more than just a response to a single incident. They had become a reminder of the importance of recognizing and honoring service and sacrifice. In airports across the country, similar scenes began to play out differently. TSA agents, informed by new training and understanding, showed appropriate respect when encountering military decorations. Veterans passing through security checkpoints found themselves met with recognition and appreciation rather than suspicion or dismissal. The lasting legacy of the incident wasn't just in the changed procedures or new training programs. It was in the thousands of small interactions that now took place with greater understanding and respect. It was in the moments when civilians recognized the significance of military decorations and chose to acknowledge the service they represented. Have you ever had a moment that changed your understanding of service and sacrifice? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might help others bridge the gap between military and civilian life. Remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell to catch the next chapter of this extraordinary story. Together, we're learning that sometimes the most powerful changes start with a simple act of recognition and respect. 6 months after the LAX incident, the impact of that pivotal moment continued to reveal itself in profound and unexpected ways. On a quiet evening at the National Medal of Honor Museum, a special exhibition was being prepared, one that would tell not just the stories of valor in combat, but also the ongoing journey of recognition and respect in civilian life. Dr. Amanda Reynolds, the museum's curator, carefully arranged the display case that would feature Bolivia's Medal of Honor alongside photographs from the LAX incident. The exhibition, titled Valor Recognized, had grown from a simple idea into a powerful narrative about the intersection of military service and civilian understanding. In another part of the country, Sylvester Stallone sat in a dimly lit editing room reviewing footage for a documentary series he was executive producing. The project, inspired by his experience at LAX, focused on Medal of Honor recipients and their lives after service. The actor had discovered that his 4 words, "They are all heroes," had opened a door to stories that needed to be told. James Cooper had become an unexpected ambassador for change. The former TSA agent, whose actions had initially sparked the controversy, now traveled to security training centers across the country, sharing his story of transformation. His presentations always began with a moment of silence, a recognition of the weight of military sacrifice and the importance of understanding its symbols. At LAX, the scene of the original incident had been transformed. The security checkpoint, where everything had begun, now featured a discreet but powerful display about military decorations and their significance. TSA agents working there often spoke of a different atmosphere, one where respect and recognition had become part of the daily routine. The story had taken on new life through the experiences of others. At a small airport in Kansas, a young TSA agent named Kevin Walsh found himself face-to-face with an elderly veteran wearing a silver star. Remembering the lessons learned from the LAX incident, Walsh stepped out from behind his podium, extended his hand and simply said, "Thank you for your service, sir." The moment, captured on security cameras, went viral, adding another chapter to the ongoing narrative. In the military community, the incident had sparked a movement. Veterans began sharing their own stories of civilian interactions, both positive and negative, creating a dialogue that helped bridge the gap between military and civilian life. These stories became part of a larger narrative about recognition, respect, and understanding. At the Pentagon, General Andrews's Understanding Valor initiative had expanded beyond its original scope. What began as a program for federal agencies had grown to include private sector organizations, educational institutions, and community groups. The general often reflected on how a potential crisis had become a catalyst for meaningful change. Retired Master Sergeant Hayes had found a new purpose in the aftermath of the incident. Working with local schools, he developed a program that brought veterans into classrooms to share their stories and help young people understand the significance of military service and its decorations. The program had spread to schools across the country, creating connections between generations. The impact reached beyond American shores. International military liaisons had taken notice of the changes implemented in the wake of the LAX incident. British, Canadian, and Australian military officials began developing similar programs to ensure their service members' decorations received appropriate recognition in civilian settings. Back in Hollywood, Stallone's involvement had inspired others. In the entertainment industry, a new wave of projects focused on authentic military stories began development, with veterans serving as consultants and advisors. The industry had recognized that true stories of valor carried more power than any fictional account. Cooper's journey of redemption had taken an unexpected turn when he was invited to speak at the Congressional Medal of Honor Society's annual convention. Standing before an audience of recipients, he shared his story of ignorance transformed into understanding. The standing ovation he received spoke volumes about the power of growth and change. Dr. Reynolds's exhibition at the Medal of Honor Museum had become a powerful testament to the ongoing impact of the incident. Visitors could trace the journey, from that tense moment at LAX to the widespread changes it inspired. Interactive displays allowed people to learn about military decorations and their significance, while video installations shared the stories of recipients and their experiences. In civilian life, the USO Lounge at LAX had become a living memorial to the incident. A wall of photographs chronicled the events of that day and their aftermath, while a guest book collected stories from veterans passing through. The space had become a symbol of understanding and recognition, a reminder of how a moment of conflict had transformed into an opportunity for connection. In police academies and first responder training centers, new protocols developed in the wake of the incident had become standard practice. Trainers emphasized the importance of recognizing military decorations and understanding their significance. The lessons learned from LAX had improved interactions between veterans and law enforcement across the country. The social media movement continued to grow. The "They Are All Heroes" hashtag had evolved into a platform for sharing stories of recognition and respect. Veterans used it to highlight positive interactions with civilians, while civilians shared moments when they had learned to better understand and appreciate military service. Belavia's speaking engagements had taken on new meaning. While he still shared his combat experiences, he now included the story of the LAX incident as an example of how understanding and respect could transform conflict into opportunity. His audiences included not just military personnel, but civilian groups eager to learn about bridging the military-civilian divide. The incident had also influenced corporate culture. Major companies began implementing training programs about military service and recognition, ensuring their employees understood how to properly interact with veterans and service members. These programs often use the LAX incident as a case study in the importance of awareness and respect. In airport management offices across the country, new policies reflected the lessons learned. Security protocols were updated to include specific guidance about military decorations, while customer service training emphasized the importance of recognizing and respecting military service. The changes weren't just procedural, they represented a fundamental shift in perspective. The story had become part of TSA training curriculum, used to illustrate the balance between security procedures and human understanding. New agents learned not just about regulations and protocols, but about the importance of recognition and respect. Cooper's experience served as both a warning and an inspiration. The Medal of Honor Society had created a traveling exhibition that brought the story to communities across the country. Through interactive displays and personal accounts, people learned about the nation's highest military decoration and the importance of recognizing its significance. The exhibition became a powerful tool for building understanding between military and civilian communities. Have you ever experienced a moment that changed your understanding of military service and sacrifice? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help others bridge the gap between military and civilian life. Stay tuned for our next chapter, where we'll explore even more ways this powerful moment has continued to influence and inspire change. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to ensure you don't miss any part of this remarkable story. Remember, every interaction is an opportunity to show respect and understanding for those who have served. Sometimes, the simplest words, like Stallone's "They are all heroes," can have the most profound impact. 1 year after the LAX incident, the story's influence had woven itself into the fabric of American society in ways no one could have predicted. On a crisp autumn morning in Washington, D.C., the steps of the Lincoln Memorial hosted a unique gathering, the first National Forum on Military Recognition and Civilian Understanding. The event, bringing together Medal of Honor recipients, civilian leaders, and everyday Americans, represented the culmination of a year's worth of changes sparked by that momentous encounter between a TSA agent, a decorated veteran, and an action star. Among the attendees was Dr. Thomas Wright, a sociologist whose research had tracked the incident's remarkable ripple effects through American society. In the crowd sat James Cooper, now barely recognizable as the rigid TSA agent who had once dismissed a Medal of Honor. His transformation had become a symbol of how education and understanding could bridge the military-civilian divide. Next to him sat a group of airport security officers from across the country, each with their own stories of how the incident had changed their approach to their work. Sylvester Stallone's documentary series, Valor: The Living Legacy, had just aired its final episode, drawing millions of viewers and critical acclaim. The series, inspired by his experience at LAX, had done more than tell stories of heroism. It had helped Americans understand the ongoing impact of military service in civilian life. The actor himself had become a powerful advocate for veteran recognition, his 4 words still echoing through countless conversations about service and sacrifice. At universities across the country, new academic programs had emerged studying the relationship between military and civilian society. Dr. Rebecca Chen at Stanford had established the Center for Military-Civilian Understanding, using the LAX incident as a cornerstone case study. in how single moments could catalyze social change. The incident had even influenced popular culture in unexpected ways. A best-selling novel, The Weight of Honor, drew inspiration from the events at LAX, weaving together themes of service, recognition, and redemption. Hollywood producers, following Stallone's lead, had begun developing projects that explored the nuanced experiences of veterans in civilian life. In the tech world, a group of veterans had created an app called Recognize Valor, designed to help civilians identify and understand military decorations and their significance. The app, which had gone viral in military and civilian communities alike, included a feature that shared daily stories of Medal of Honor recipients. The TSA's transformation had become a model for other organizations. The comprehensive training program developed in the wake of the incident, now known as the LAX Protocol, had been adopted by security agencies worldwide. Cooper's story was a central element, demonstrating how personal growth could drive institutional change. At LAX itself, the anniversary approached with a sense of profound meaning. The airport had become a symbol of transformation, its security checkpoints now staffed by agents trained not just in procedures, but in recognition and respect. The USO lounge had expanded, creating a space where the military-civilian dialogue could continue to flourish. Master Sergeant Hayes had expanded his educational program to include virtual reality experiences, allowing students to understand the weight of military service in a more immersive way. The program, now implemented in schools nationwide, had helped a new generation appreciate the significance of military decorations and the stories they represented. Dr. Reynolds' exhibition at the Medal of Honor Museum had evolved into a traveling display, bringing its message of understanding and recognition to communities across America. The exhibition now included an interactive element, where visitors could share their own stories of military-civilian encounters, creating a growing archive of understanding. In corporate America, the ripple effects continued to spread. Major companies had established veteran recognition programs, ensuring their employees understood how to interact respectfully with service members. Human resource departments nationwide had incorporated military cultural awareness into their training protocols. The international impact had grown as well. Military liaison officers from allied nations had adapted the lessons learned from the LAX incident, creating their own programs for bridging the military-civilian divide. The story had become a case study in how local incidents could drive global change. Bolivia's speaking circuit had expanded beyond military and security audiences to include corporate leaders, educators, and community organizations. His message had evolved to emphasize not just the importance of military service, but the ongoing need for understanding between military and civilian communities. Social media continued to play a crucial role in spreading the message. The Badass They Are All Heroes movement had spawned countless sub-communities, each focused on specific aspects of military-civilian understanding. Veterans used these platforms to share their experiences, while civilians sought guidance on showing appropriate respect. The congressional hearings sparked by the incident had led to concrete legislative changes. New laws mandated improved training for federal employees regarding military decorations and protocols. Funding had been allocated for programs promoting military-civilian understanding at the community level. In police departments nationwide, veteran liaison officers had become standard positions, ensuring that law enforcement understood how to properly interact with service members. The training programs, inspired by the LAX incident, had improved relationships between veterans and law enforcement communities. The Medal of Honor Society had created a permanent educational center focused on bridging the military-civilian divide. The center offered programs for schools, businesses, and community organizations, using the lessons learned from the LAX incident to promote understanding and respect. Airport management across the country had implemented recognition points, designated areas where TSA agents could properly acknowledge military decorations without compromising security procedures. These spaces had become symbols of how security and respect could coexist. The story had even influenced architectural design. New airports and public buildings incorporated spaces specifically designed to honor military service and facilitate respectful interactions between civilian authorities and service members. These design elements had become known as valor points. Have you witnessed changes in how military service is recognized in your community? Share your observations in the comments below. Your perspective helps build a more complete picture of how we're growing in our understanding of military service and sacrifice. Remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell for our next chapter, where we'll explore even more ways this watershed moment continues to shape our society. Together, we're learning that recognition and respect aren't just actions, they're bridges between communities. The legacy of those 4 words, "They are all heroes," continues to grow, reminding us that sometimes the most powerful changes start with a simple moment of recognition. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message of understanding and respect. The story of the LAX incident continued to unfold in unexpected ways, revealing how a single moment of recognition could spark countless personal transformations. In a small town in Ohio, former Army Sergeant Frank Collins watched Stallone's documentary series with his teenage son, finally finding the words to share his own military experiences that he kept silent for decades. The ripple effects of that day had touched lives far beyond the original participants. At a busy airport in Atlanta, a young TSA agent named Maria Rodriguez encountered an elderly veteran wearing a Distinguished Service Cross. The interaction that followed, captured on security cameras, demonstrated how deeply the lessons of the LX incident had been absorbed into the fabric of airport security culture. James Cooper had received an unexpected invitation to speak at a national security conference. His journey from the TSA agent who had dismissed a Medal of Honor to becoming a leading voice in military recognition had captured the imagination of security professionals worldwide. His presentation, titled "The Day I Learned to See," moved hardened security veterans to tears. In Hollywood, Stallone's influence continued to grow in unexpected directions. The actor had established the Recognition Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to bridging the gap between military and civilian communities. The foundation's first project was a nationwide series of dinner gatherings where veterans and civilians could share meals and stories, breaking down barriers one conversation at a time. Dr. Reynolds' exhibition at the Medal of Honor Museum had given birth to an oral history project. Veterans and civilians alike shared their stories of recognition, respect, and understanding. Among them was the story of retired Marine Corps Colonel William Davidson, who had been inspired by the LAX incident to create a mentorship program pairing veterans with civilian professionals. The technological impact of the incident had expanded beyond the Recognize Valor app. A team of software developers, led by Air Force veteran Sarah Martinez, had created an augmented reality platform that allowed civilians to experience virtual interactions with Medal of Honor recipients, learning their stories and understanding the weight of their sacrifices. At LAX, the anniversary of the incident was marked by the unveiling of a permanent installation. The Bridge of Recognition, a walkway connecting the main terminal to the security checkpoint, featured interactive displays telling the stories of Medal of Honor recipients and the importance of civilian understanding. Cooper and Bellavia had both attended the dedication ceremony, their presence a powerful symbol of transformation. Master Sergeant Hayes's educational program had produced its first generation of graduates. These young people, now entering college and the workforce, carried with them a deep understanding of military service and sacrifice. One of them, Jessica Chen, had been inspired to create a high school club dedicated to veteran recognition and support. The impact on popular culture continued to evolve. A renowned playwright had crafted a powerful stage production, 4 Words, exploring the moments before, during, and after the LAX incident. The play, which opened to critical acclaim, helped audiences understand the complex dynamics between military and civilian life. In the corporate world, the changes had taken on new dimensions. Major airlines had created special training programs for their staff, ensuring that military decorations were recognized and respected throughout the travel experience. One carrier had even designated special lounges where veterans could share their stories with interested civilians. The international response had grown more sophisticated. Military attachés from various nations had gathered for a symposium on civilian-military relations, using the LAX incident as a case study in how simple recognition could bridge cultural divides. The resulting protocols had been adopted by airports and security agencies worldwide. Dr. Wright's sociological research had revealed unexpected patterns. Communities that had embraced the lessons of the LAX incident showed improved relationships between civilian and military populations. His findings had influenced policy decisions at both local and national levels. The TSA's transformation had become a model for other government agencies. The Department of Motor Vehicles, often criticized for its impersonal approach, had implemented new training programs inspired by the LAX protocol. The changes had led to more positive interactions with veteran customers and improved overall service. In the realm of education, the impact continued to grow. Universities had developed courses examining the relationship between military and civilian society, using the LAX incident as a central case study. Professor Elizabeth Turner at Georgetown had created a popular seminar called Recognition: The Bridge Between Worlds. The social media movement had evolved into something more substantial. What began with Disheshki Tiru, They Are All Heroes, had grown into a network of online communities dedicated to sharing stories of military service and civilian recognition. These digital spaces had become crucial meeting points for veterans and civilians seeking understanding. Local communities had found creative ways to implement the lessons learned. In Seattle, a group of coffee shop owners had started a program called Cups of Recognition, where veterans could share their stories with interested civilians over free coffee. The program had spread to other cities, creating thousands of meaningful connections. The Medal of Honor Society's traveling exhibition had taken on new life with the addition of virtual reality experiences. Visitors could now step into moments of valor, gaining a deeper understanding of the extraordinary actions that earned the nation's highest military decoration. The experience had proven particularly powerful for young people. Cooper's personal journey had inspired others in unexpected ways. Security professionals from various fields had begun sharing their own stories of transformation, creating a growing body of literature about the importance of combining procedure with human understanding. The architectural influence of the incident had spread beyond airports. Public spaces were being designed with recognition points, areas specifically created to facilitate meaningful interactions between military and civilian communities. These spaces had become important gathering points in cities across the country. Have you experienced a moment of connection between military and civilian life? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience could help others understand the importance of recognition and respect. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for our final chapter, where we'll explore the lasting legacy of this remarkable moment. Together, we're learning that understanding and respect can transform not just individuals, but entire communities. Remember, every interaction is an opportunity to build bridges between military and civilian worlds. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message of transformation and connection. 2 years after that fateful morning at LAX, the impact of those 4 words, "They are all heroes," continued to reshape the relationship between military and civilian communities. On a warm summer evening, thousands gathered at the National Mall in Washington, D.C. for the inaugural National Recognition Day, a celebration that had grown from the seeds planted by that single airport encounter. Sylvester Stallone stood at the podium, his presence a reminder of how a simple act of standing up for what's right could catalyze profound change. Behind him sat rows of Medal of Honor recipients, including Staff Sergeant Bellavia, each representing a story of extraordinary courage, both in combat and in civilian life. Among them was James Cooper, no longer defined by his mistake, but by his journey of transformation. The Recognition Foundation, now in its 2nd year, had expanded beyond its initial dinner series to create lasting connections between military and civilian communities. Their latest initiative, Living Libraries, allowed veterans to share their stories in intimate settings, helping civilians understand the human experiences behind military decorations. Dr. Reynolds's exhibition had evolved into the National Center for Military-Civilian Understanding, a permanent institution dedicated to fostering connection and recognition between these 2 worlds. The center's interactive displays, virtual reality experiences, and oral history archives had become a model for similar institutions worldwide. In airports across the country, the LAX protocol had become more than just a training program. It had evolved into a philosophy of service that balanced security with respect. TSA agents now wore special pins indicating their training in military decoration recognition, a visible symbol of their commitment to understanding and respect. The technological revolution sparked by the incident continued to advance. The Recognize Valor app had partnered with major social media platforms, creating digital spaces where veterans could safely share their stories and civilians could learn about military service. The augmented reality platform developed by Sarah Martinez had become a standard educational tool in schools nationwide. Master Sergeant Hayes's educational program had expanded to include international exchange components, allowing students from different countries to learn about how various nations honor their military service members. The program had become particularly powerful in healing historical wounds and building bridges between former adversaries. The Bridge of Recognition at LAX had inspired similar installations at airports worldwide. These spaces had become more than just passageways. They were points of connection where the military and civilian worlds could meet in understanding. The original installation had been visited by millions, each visitor adding their own story to its growing legacy. Hollywood's approach to military stories had undergone a fundamental shift. Inspired by Stallone's documentary series, producers now sought authentic voices and experiences, moving beyond simple heroic narratives to explore the complex reality of military service and civilian life. Veterans had become integral consultants. In these productions, ensuring accuracy and depth in portrayal, the corporate world's engagement had deepened beyond recognition programs. Major companies had created veteran-civilian mentorship initiatives, helping service members translate their military experience into civilian careers, while helping civilian employees understand the value of military training and perspective. Dr. Wright's research had expanded into a longitudinal study examining how improved military-civilian understanding affected communities. The results were clear. Areas that had embraced the lessons of the LAX incident showed stronger social cohesion, better veteran integration, and more effective support systems for military families. The international impact had led to the creation of the Global Recognition Alliance, a coalition of nations committed to improving military-civilian relations. Their annual summit, which rotated between member countries, had become a crucial forum for sharing best practices and developing new initiatives. In the field of architecture, the concept of recognition points had evolved into a broader philosophy of inclusive design. Public spaces were now being created with an understanding of how physical environment could facilitate meaningful connections between different communities. These principles had influenced everything from airport terminals to city parks. The social media movement had matured into a powerful force for change. The daunting They Are All Heroes platform had given rise to numerous grassroots initiatives, each focused on specific aspects of military-civilian understanding. These digital communities had become crucial support networks for veterans and educational resources for civilians. Professor Turner's seminar at Georgetown had spawned similar programs at universities across the globe. The academic study of military-civilian relations had grown into its own field, with researchers examining how moments of recognition could transform social dynamics and heal cultural divides. Local communities had found innovative ways to implement the lessons learned. The Cups of Recognition program had evolved into community centers where veterans and civilians could gather for meaningful interaction. These spaces had become vital hubs for building understanding and support networks. The Medal of Honor societies. Work had expanded to include programs for children of recipients, helping them understand and carry forward their family's legacy of service. These young people had become powerful advocates for military-civilian understanding, bridging generations and perspectives. Cooper's journey had become required reading in security training programs worldwide. His story of transformation from rigid enforcement to enlightened understanding had helped countless others recognize the importance of balancing procedure with human dignity. As the sun set over the National Mall, casting long shadows across the gathered crowd, Stallone shared a final reflection on the power of recognition and respect. His words echoed the lesson learned 2 years ago, that sometimes the simplest acknowledgement of service and sacrifice could spark profound change. The legacy of the LAX incident continued to grow, touching lives in ways that no one could have predicted. It had shown that the gap between military and civilian worlds could be bridged not just through grand gestures, but through countless small moments of recognition and respect. Have you been part of this journey of understanding? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience could help others see the importance of recognition and respect in building stronger communities. Thank you for joining us on this remarkable journey through 7 chapters of transformation and understanding. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this video with others who might need to hear this message of hope and connection. As we conclude this series, remember that every day presents new opportunities to bridge the gap between military and civilian life. Those 4 words, "They are all heroes," remind us that recognition and respect have the power to transform not just moments, but lives and communities. The story that began with a confrontation at an airport security checkpoint has become a movement, touching lives across the globe. It shows us that when we choose to stand up for what's right, to recognize sacrifice, and to build understanding, we create ripples that continue long after the moment has passed. Together, we can continue this journey of understanding, one moment of recognition at a time.